We'll forget. Hello, yeah, so last talk, super difficult slot, but also I guess that everyone wants to go and relax a little bit after a full day of talks here. But I promise you this talk is not a technical talk, like too much technical. There will be some code there. It's mainly ideas and highlights of what we are doing with the most stable and feature complete set of bindings for the Qt framework. And I am not being biased to saying that because that's a reality. So first, if you don't know me, my name is Cristián. I have been working in the Qt company for a little bit more than 6 years now. And to show some connection to the whole community, of course, I wanted to put some, not going into full memory lane, but highlight what is my connection, at least with KDE. So the main motivation that I had to be here finally in person, because in the last events I was only online, is that long time ago I was part of this community. That I hope that you don't know the logo, because sadly that community doesn't exist anymore. But there was even an official blog post about it. But Elio Castro, I think that is also was active on the chat there. He was visiting there the community, and back then we used to have a Chilean KDE community. So this was 2010. I made a mistake of subtracting the years and knowing that it's a long time ago. So yeah, I mean, back then I was one of the only one pushing for Qt there around. And you might think, oh, well, there's another community there in that country. That the answer is no, because in South America, besides Brazil, Genome was the king. Everyone was doing Genome. Like everyone was doing GTK. And there were only a few weird people like this in these photos, like we were using Qt. I said, oh, but that thing is a European stuff, whatever. And I was like, yeah, it's so nice. So we were there doing some stuff, and I started to check this really old set of pictures, and I noticed another picture that if you were here for the initial talk this morning, that the speaker there, Joanna, I think was her name, that was bragging about using R Linux. I was also using R Linux there, and I also started a community. And if you are R Linux user, you remember that, and around that time, using it was a lot of fun. But this is not the content of the talk. So first disclaimer again, like this morning's talk about Rust. The idea of this talk is not to say, hey, Python is better, use Python. No, it's like, hey, Python is also there. We can use it, we can get ideas, and we can improve the whole ecosystem. So I don't want to convince you. So first of all, the language findings in the Qt ecosystem is something that is nothing new. I mean, I will not bore you here like explaining you how to do it. It's there, nothing new. But I really believe that the bindings that we have out there are also Qt experience. And because of that reason, some people using other languages can think, oh, Qt is really bad. I will not use it, or I will even start using KDE because of the experience that they had on those bindings. So I think that as a Qt project, we need to be responsible for it. And that's why I believe that why we need to push so much for having a good experience with Python bindings in general. So just to highlight a few that I was just checking, maybe you know that wiki page, maybe not, but only a few. We have 2 bindings for Python. We have the CSXQ that we talked this morning about it. There are other Rust bindings around. We have for Java, that is, to my surprise, Java bindings are super up to date and still actively maintained. Julia, Zig, Ring, you name it. There is like even like 26 others there. And it's super relevant. But the problem that I have is that most of these bindings usually try to put a one-on-one like kind of equivalent. So you have these classes in the Qt ecosystem exposing that things in the own language and do it. But at some point, when we were reaching kind of like feature completeness with the Qt framework, we thought, what about we can improve the experience of the Python users in the Qt ecosystem with our set of bindings? So, and also the idea was to at least say, okay, it's not like you can use Qt with Python, but you have other things that you can use around. So in the case of Python, I sadly need to go back to all these surveys around, like this morning we're referring, and also don't like them much. But the only thing that I want to highlight here is that even though most of us like we're born and raised C++ developers, we cannot neglect Python. By the way, I think that there we don't even have Rust, but yeah. And I think this was shown, I think that a different one was shown this morning, was Stack Overflow survey, that even though you can see like Rust is growing and everyone wants it, the reality is that out there, most of the developers are using technologies like Python, JavaScript, and all the others. So it's super relevant still about the thing. So of course, most of you, just to show hands, who has never used Python in this room? Everyone's used? Perfect. So we cannot neglect these kind of things. I mean, this is only a little, I don't want you to read that, just want to see the magnitude for doing a kind of like super simple hello world in C++ and Qt, and I'm not even adding the CMake list txt there, and that will be the equivalent with Python. So even that's selling point for new users, like, oh yeah, you can do the same with this other language and achieve whatever you want to achieve there for your first application, which maybe will not be a super commercial ready application, but something to get started into the Qt ecosystem, is very appealing. So even though there are some things that I don't like from the current state of the project regarding syntax, I believe that is something that we need to push more so we can attract more people to Qt, and naturally we will have more people into the KDE community. So if you're not into much the history of Python, I'd say personally that Python has three main points where it started to shine. The first one being the whole web development things, when you had things like Flask, Django, and lately Fast API, which is a really, really popular Python module. And then we had the second kind of like another peak of the development, which you all know, I'm almost certain, which is data science lately. And last but not least, I also believe that this is also a really cool area, because there are projects like MicroPython and CircuitPython that started to brought the whole microcontrollers to the people that didn't know a lot of experience of, I don't know, memory allocations or limits on the RAM or whatever. So I believe that these three pillars of the Python community is something that is what is still making it shine. Nowadays, we know it's a reality, and you know, if someone wants to start learning how to code, you most probably will say, yeah, maybe you can do some Python first, and then, you know, go into the harder languages. So first, another thing that is to highlight, that I guess that we cannot defeat the installing systems of Python. So pip install whatever, and then you have it. It's way simpler than at least all the other compile languages that we have there. We even managed at some point to expose, since I work in the Qt company, that kind of functionality to having private wheels, which is something that also is not very explored in companies, because companies sometimes offer commercial Python packages. And we did this thing, again, it's written in C++, and it was also a really good experience. At least the feedback we got from some commercial customers is really good. I was telling before about the whole data science popularity, and specifically on the machine learning popularity. You see those two are the more essential or main modules, and you can see already in the language those projects has how important C++ is. So the whole message here is that I really believe that one of the pillars of the Python ecosystem at the moment to be like such a good language is because C++. Because C++ is exposing all these, like, you know, the hardcore performance critical processes into an API, in a user-facing API that is like super simple, and people without any knowledge of programming can add a few lines, train a model, and start doing things. That's why I believe that with this combination of C++ and Python, we got the perfect recipe, right? So as I said before, we have a Python user-facing experience with a C++ core, right? That should be right. I will talk about that later. But let's go about Python and Qt. So first of all, I want to clarify something that I get wrong all the time, but many people that I interact with. We have the Qt ecosystem two set of bindings. And I want to explain why we have two set of bindings. So I know that now you're expecting like all the drama behind it. It's not so, at least I was not there, but when this happens, but in a nutshell, you know, PyQt has been around for a long time. At some point, I got invited into the Qt project with the condition, of course, of changing the license. And then the people behind PyQt say, like, thank you very much, but we have our own thing, we're our business around it, not convenient for us. So they say, okay, then we need to do another one. And that's why PySide was born. So maybe it was more dramatic. I don't know. I don't even want to go into the mailing list at all. But the main difference are, like this, as I mentioned before, licenses, the company that is behind the development, supports are roughly the same. And the and more part there is that I want to make emphasis why. And as I said, I know I might be biased, but this has been the goal in the latest years, that we want to offer more than just the Qt API available in Python. So I don't want to go into the details, but this is more or less the story of PySide. I joined around 2018, so you can see there. So I missed all the fun parts there before, but so far so good. We are just keeping the same release schedule as Qt, and everything is going great. As I told you before, so for Python, this, as I said, we would not like to just expose API, the Qt API, because then the question that you all might have is like, so what's the difference? So I just change the import and that's it. And this was the state of the project at some point. And we were like really thinking, oh my God, really need to do a difference now. So what I would try to do now is to highlight which are all the features that we have added on top of just having Qt bindings for making the Python experience for new Qt developers very well. So as I said, searching for features. So the first one, we thought it was a really interesting one. It was a main use case from one of our customers. It's, well, it's some code there you're unable to read so far in the, but don't worry, give it a couple of seconds, which is maybe you're familiarized with the solution from Autodesk. They started with this requirement that was having access to a Qt C++ application from a Python interpreter. In a nutshell, if you want to implement plugins or add-ons to the application. We thought it was the main thing that people were planning to using it. People still wanted more. So at some point we thought, what is the most popular Python model out there that we can make it interact flawlessly with Qt? And it was NumPy, numerical Python module, historical module that also was super important in the evolution and the adoption from the scientific community. And then we thought maybe we can have some mechanisms inside to accept the data structures that they expose, the NumPy arrays, within that thing. And even at some point, we got a project called PyQt Graph, that I know it said PyQt, but it's compiled with PySide as well, that they asked, you know what, we really would like for QPainter to have a specific API that accepted these two NumPy arrays, whatever. And since everyone was thinking of, yeah, the PySide bindings are, there, we thought, yeah, you know what, let's break API. You have this need, it's an open source project that will benefit from it. We gave those new APIs. So this is even something that we have been open for all the other projects. Like, you need something is not there, let's do it. We don't care. We would just want to get more people happy. And the third point was Qt creator support, at least a minimal one. So we thought that exposing a few templates there that you can start was enough. We started to work a little bit more on these things. And after you finish and selected your model you wanted to do, you can even have the option now to create your own virtual environment, which is the natural thing for Python developers to do. And then you get this nice, or maybe, I don't know, not so nice, but pop-up about like, hey, PySide is not installed. Maybe you can install it like that. So trying to ease the interaction there. But then I went to conference around it, they said, yeah, that's not enough. So okay, let's look for more maybe Python features to this. So the first one, and this is something that you might believe maybe, that's silly, but I will tell you later why it was not. Typical nonsensical, like simple code, just to highlight that this is what we will be using in Python. And then we implemented a feature that was changing the whole Qt API at runtime to snake case. And you will say, this was, alongside the next one that I will tell you, the number one comment that every single, it was really like a joke, like a nightmare that follows you, everyone. But you know what? You have camel case, and that feels really C++. It's not really Python. So we did that, but it was not enough, because then people thought, you also need to have true properties, because in C++ we're used to setters and getters, well, in Qt, right? But in Python, that's not a thing. So we implemented another option called true property. So then you don't need all these setters and getters, and you can just directly go there and modify the property value. And as I told you, like, this was really what everyone was asking for. Even this thing as well caused like many good and positive comments out of the community. Then we had QML element. So as you know, you're Qt and C++ developers, you can expose QML, C++ code to be used in the QML by this little macro called QML element that then at build time, because of some CMake magic, you get that exposed. We don't have build time in Python, right? So we needed to do something like, how could we solve this problem for the Python user? So we thought, what is natural for people in Python to have if you maybe do want to, I don't know, do some external decoration on things. So literally using a decorator. So then we implemented this approach of, it was literally just having one decorator on a specific Python class that needed to inherit from QObject, giving some important name and versioning. And then people would easily go to the QML there and just instantiate the object and using it all over the place. With that, also, we made a lot of QML users happy about it, and it was something that literally changed the situation. If you were using PySide, have you ever used QML element to expose Python things to C++? Sorry, so QML? Nobody? Okay, good. So now you know, but you can do it. So yeah, this was very important. And then after that, I didn't want to put it here in the slide, but there are many other decorators that can help you, like if you want a singleton or whatsoever. So we have many methods there to do the whole type registrar thing at runtime. So every time, maybe yourself and the people behind all the support that we have in CMake gets creative with doing things in build time, we need to somehow try to figure out what we do that. As far as I know, and please correct me if I am wrong later, PyQt does not have any mechanism to do this. Tooling, then we thought, okay, maybe we need to do something about that. People don't know that we include in the wheels all those tools there. The ones that you see on the top, maybe you cannot read it properly, are the ones that we have wrappers around the C++ code, so the C++ tool, so we can use it in Python modules. The last two there, sometimes they're super simple as calling the binary that we're including, but we also have things that doesn't exist in Qt, for example, generate type hints for Python. We have even a little functionality to do a complete dump of the meta object, and even new tools that also have not getting a lot of love because we have been really bad at communicating those things, which is like you can have tools like PySide Seed project that is kind of having a Qt creator on the terminal, because you can start new projects based from templates and just build and run the application there without worrying about anything. And then you also have a tool to deploy, for example. Deployment is a big issue even nowadays for C++ and Qt developers, because in my opinion, it's not good to have the application to deploy to Linux, one to Windows, and one to Mac. So we thought, why reinventing the wheel, like having yet another tool based whatever? So we started to look into the Python community, and there is recently a really good deployment tool in Python, which is called Nuitka. And it's the only one that really compiles Python code. All the other ones are freezers, the one that transforms some stuff and is a fake zip. But this is really good, and we said, let's do just a user interface on top of that. Developer team there is super nice, super open, so we have been collaborating quite a lot. So why not? And the last that you see there on the right is the Android deployed, which I will talk about later, which was also a big milestone in our own project. So yeah, again, even with all these things, people were still asking about, what about? And, okay, let's do even more features. Android support, as I just told you. This is a case that since I joined the company, people is asking for Android support. My opinion, I'm not a mobile developer. It's really strange for someone to want to do a mobile application using Python, since there are options out there that can be super simple. But again, we thought, why reinventing everything from scratch, trying to figure out everything? And one of the competitors that PySide has out there in the Python ecosystem is Kiwi. Kiwi is another framework to create user interfaces in Python. And they developed a tool that is literally to put Python modules on Android devices. And then we saw the license, it's compliant. We developed one tool around it that was compliant with everything they had. We contacted them. They say, hey, we have a recipe now, so you can have PySide there. So, yes, sure, let's do it. And we are reusing that thing again. So even though there are like two different offers, we are trying to find our ways to interact more with other projects doing things. So if you want to know how it works, you will be unable to read here because it was recording on a screen size with the resolution too high. But in a nutshell, the first step that you maybe saw there is that just calling the Android deploy tool that we have. And we do provide some ARC64 wheels, so we are using those. You can do this, the cost compilation to create those wheels for Linux or Mac. And then when we have all these wheels, we are preparing the packaging. Then you can open it, for example, in Android Studio, where you can see all the information there generated. And I think that the last step now will be that we are preparing to put the package on a mobile phone, and soonish you will see the application popping up. There it is. Oh, did I pause it? I don't know. So then you have like the usual permissions and everything. And thanks to one of my colleagues, Sham, that recorded this like 2 days ago. So then you have that at the beginning. The first comment that I got when we announced Android support after all the work, like, yeah, what about iOS? And I was like, okay, yeah, stop. I will not even continue, even take the time for it. Another interesting experiment here, which is Qt Async IO. This doesn't exist in C++, of course. And why we did it is because we had a lot of people requesting interoperability between the module Async IO in Python and PySide applications. So Async IO is one of the main, if not like the maybe well-accepted modules to do asynchronous computing in Python. And there are many plugins out there. If you Google for like, I don't know, like Qt or Async IO, whatever, you will find those things. They started to stop being developed, and one after the other they were forking each other, and then whoop, 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 and then at the end, I think there is no active project. So we thought, why not having something like that? So this was never done before because it is literally a model that doesn't exist in C++ that people can import like they do with any other Qt module. So in a nutshell, you can see there like a little example that is just highlighting how do you call, I think this is the simple example that we have. How do you need to use this new wrapper around the Q application, for example, in order to make it work. So at some point, we were discussing like, oh, maybe we can make now this a C++ thing and maybe reinvent it, but no. So far, no interaction on that. And sadly, also the Adrian, the person that was in charge of this thing, at some point stopped contributing with the project. So in case you're interested with this topic, we can talk about each other. Another thing, so Design Studio. Have you ever used Design Studio, by the way, here? Is anyone using this? Okay, you are. Super requested thing by open source user and commercial users like, hey, but I want to have a Python project out of it. We didn't have support. So the solution that we have in place now that we will announce in the following days, it's a new option in Design Studio that then you have enabling the Python generator that will create this new Python directory inside your project, where you will have a setting things that is the file that will be constantly changing in case you have more assets there in your project, and the main PY file, which in theory will not change at all. So you don't have the risk of touching again and again the files and everything. As I said, with the next Qt Design Studio release, this will be out as well, and we will preparing a blog post about it. So you can have it a look. So it's really convenient, and at the same time, maybe you have noticed that Design Studio also has their own Qt Quick components that they're not in Qt. So what we also did is that now we will have a PySide Design Studio wheel that includes those components as well. So in case you want to just use those. Another thing that it was really interesting to achieve is that before the jump from 5 to 6, we noticed that performance-wise, PySide was really slow compared to PyQt. And we did some investigation, and we noticed that back then we were using really inefficient containers in the implementation. And we improved that, and we managed to get parity of the speed up. But something that we are still fighting, well, hopefully for not so long, is that the loading of the modules is something that is it was a little bit more slow. So this new approach that another colleague, Cristián, is working, it's based on an enhanced proposal in the Python ecosystem that was rejected, but the idea was good to improve the startup time. And I don't know if some of you were in the contributor summit, but we talk about that there. And for the end user, it's just faster to run a Python application. Qt Script. You remember maybe Qt Script, the one that enabled you to make some nice interaction with JavaScript that was in Qt 5 that was not maintained anymore. At some point, we had an internal hackathon, and I had the idea like, hey, maybe we can do it with Python. And everyone was like, ha, ha, ha. But it's not for real. And then we did something, and it was very interesting. The reception, at least in the company's hackathon, was, yeah, maybe we can push it later. And another colleague from the team, Friedemann, decided to say like, hey, maybe we can do this a thing. Recently, maybe you saw that Qt Creator supports Lua now for creating extensions. And the end goal of this is to convince and work together with the Qt Creator developers to enable Python to be as a language to write plugins for Qt Creator. I don't know if you have write any like Qt Creator in currently, but it's a little bit complicated. So as I told you before, the idea of this would be to embed this Python interpreter so you can use it within C++. And it was similar to the first example that I showed you there, this application, this widescreen that was enlarging the fonts, and it would enable us to use these dynamical bindings for this program without relying on having this binding generator needing to be building the modules and stuff. So it would be really cool, in my opinion, and hopefully it's something that we can push soon to have this thing around. Something that might be interesting, at least the people that is around this topic knows already, so I'm happy about it, is that for a long time, I remember having many conversations with people from the KDE that say, hey, please make it possible to build this via Flatpak. So recently, Shyam, one of the colleagues, decided to do enabling these things. So maybe you remember this Python with Kirigami website that is in the documentation. Before it was PyQt with Kirigami. And now we gladly, with this support, we managed to do the Python in general. So users can have the choice. They can do Kirigami-based applications with either with PyQt or PySide. So this something was recently announced there. And since we are talking about KDE, something that also makes us really happy, and thanks for Carl here, is that there's also a work being in the Google Summer of Code done by Manuel, and Carl is helping him. And apparently, as I heard, everything is going well so far. So it is something that is still interesting to have. And I believe that this is kind of the idea that we need to move into the future, like stop thinking of a C++ framework and more like, like a many languages framework. So then the question was, is that enough with all the PySide feature that we have? Well, I believe that it will never be enough. So we even started to think about new features. And here I want to make a parenthesis, and I want to talk about Rust. Recently, and this is my own personal opinion, some people noticed that rewriting Python code in a compiled language was faster. And then everyone was like, oh my God, right? And I was like, seriously? But anyway, this is improving the Python ecosystem, so people is happy about using it. But I really don't like when people always do this comparison about like Python being slow with compared to Rust or C++. Yeah, we know. I mean, it's a reality. This is what it happens because we don't use Python for being fast. We use Python for being convenient. But anyway, so I like the whole argument of memory safety, yes. But if you see a person only highlighting faster, it's like, make no sense. And you may believe like, okay, well, that's a silly thing. So Rust started to be super strong in the Python community, and now there's even like companies doing tooling around it. So people decided, for example, to start rewriting different applications. The first two are rewrites of existing Python tooling, and the last one is a kind of like a cargo for Python kind of thing, and they have been super successful lately. So I believe that this is really good for the Python ecosystem, and I really hope that with the CX we can manage to get into a point of having also this another language and being not rewriting things like in the talk this morning was mentioning, but having new things written in Rust that can improve the ecosystem. There is a different approach, though, that someone there is also a different company called Exaloop decided to, you know what, Python is cool, but let's keep only the user interface and rewrite everything. One of the authors of this thing, it's a commercial only thing so far. It's one of the people behind LLVM. So they decided to say just using as Python as a front end, and then, well, the language that you see, and then everything else is super improved to run in different systems, whatever. And it's, I don't know. It's a nice approach that I wanted to highlight as well. So I think I still have like sometimes, right? So like 5. Okay, cool. So yeah, that was the parenthesis. And with regarding Rust, because maybe you have read some news or in your timelines on respective social media, like Python and Rust are being really cool. And I had a talk in Lithuania where a lot of people were like, oh yeah, Rust is so fast, Rust is so fast. And I wrote one extension in Rust and one in C++, and C++ was faster. So why people is not writing things in C++? You tell me. I don't know. So the future of the project, the future of PySide. First of all, simplifying user experience. This is cute. I will give you a couple of seconds to digest the code. This is a prototype that I was playing around with because sometimes I get the complaints from people that to write a simple application, they need to know a lot of things about Qt. You need to know what a Qt application is, you need to know what a Qt push button is, how to interact, that you need a QV box layout in order to put things. And some people don't like that. I respect that. But maybe as a Qt project, we could start envisioning trying to have solutions on top of what we have already. So this is only widget based, and I don't think that I will ever publish it, but If you see, it's completely different and it's super similar to other frameworks like Flutter does. There is currently something called Flet, that is Flutter for Python, that is literally this kind of like interfaces. So I don't know, maybe it's a playground thingy. It's something that is convenient for us to expose people to our dear technology, but in a way that is not so specific to our framework, and it might work. The other one is packaging and tooling. Even though we still have lots of tools, I still believe that we need to make a better work communicating it, and functionality wise, maybe start shipping everything, but maybe have like one or two that does most of those stuff, because people get super confused. And I all the time have bug reports like, if I put designer by a standalone, it doesn't work with the PySide plugins. And it's like, no, you need to do PySide as a designer instead of, okay. So yeah, maybe we might work on that as well. New modules integrations. I always like to see Qt for Python as an interface, trying to get the best of both worlds. So we are still looking into other Python modules that we can have more API for, so we can use maybe, I don't know, have a Qtable widget or a view like populated by a pandas data frame, for example, if you're familiar with pandas in the Python ecosystem. Things like that might be worth exploring and might be also a good thing to have in the future. And the other thing that I was mentioning before is about this async IO module, is that maybe we will have other modules written in Python only that can improve the life of Qt developers in Python. I only have a few slides, so I will be finishing soon. And as I told you before, but don't tell this anyone outside this room, if you have requested a specialized API that can break the Qt API but is solving your problem, let's talk, and maybe we can even add it to the module without any problem. If you have ideas as well, contact me. I will be around tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Even if you have pain points, I'm happy to hear. So what's next? I think that we need to embrace the idea of a many language framework for the Qt ecosystem. I don't know, maybe because I'm getting old, but I really would like for us to be boring. And in a sense of like, do not try to reinvent a new super parser that does something. If there is something out there, let's use it. Or they did something that worked, let's do that with every single language. Because sometimes you don't need to invent new things all the time. You can adopt and nurture whatever you have with those things. So that's the thing that I really envisioned, that having a Qt ecosystem, imagining like everything acting together, and imagine all the possibilities that we have, like putting more languages, more ideas, more mechanisms that maybe solve problems that you as a Qt user, as a KDE user have. And then with all these things, you know what we can, we can have a better Qt ecosystem overall. And with that, I just wanted to see, like, again, if we have a better and polyglot Qt framework, that means a better KDE for sure. So yeah. Thank you very much. And if you have maybe any question, you can let me know.